Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now it's on.
Is it working? Okay.
Where was I?
Take two, Marcia.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have these laws, but sometimes the laws go out of, not fashion, but out of usefulness for the public. And the public needs to take steps sometimes to make sure those laws, well, they might not get enforced, or they can get, banished off the books or whatever, or changed or amended. So I guess that's how we make the laws accountable to us.
Marty, did you want to say something?
Well, no, I think people gave examples that were good, and I think one of the other examples I can give is like, law accountable to the public. For example, smoking bans and near buildings, or who upholds that law, right? Did the police come and someone's smoking right near a building? Did the police officer come up and
No.
say something to the person? I found out that if you're in private property, like at Starbucks, unless the establishment calls on the police to come and take someone off, they don't do anything. They can't do anything. So the law is there, it's set up so that it protects, whatever secondhand smoke. But then you look at the accountability to the public, who's upholding that piece out of that law?
I think a major part of that is the judicial branch itself, and the way the judges and legal cases come forward, and lawyers and judges and cases, the law shifts with the changing times. So and that's a really great example that Marty gave about the smoke-free laws, because I've been working so much with that. There's no constitutional right anywhere in the state or the federal government that protects smokers. Smoking is not an activity that's protected. But a lot of people say, oh, it's my right to smoke, it's my right. The fact that people bring these cases to court, and first they're shunned, and maybe they're turned down, and maybe people win who are, fighting for their right to smoke. But after more education comes out, and there's more medical information, and there's more and more cases brought forward, judges and juries and courts start deciding cases in different ways. So it starts to push the social trend in a different way. So the law becomes more protective in certain cases. So I think courts have a lot to do with changing laws.
They do, because
I'm not changing laws. Sorry, not changing laws, but changing the social perception of what is allowed and not what's not allowed.
Well, we go back to interpretation, because judges decide cases on precedent.
Yes.
Sure.
So regardless of what the law says, a judge researches case law and sees how other similar cases were decided and bases his decision on that.
Sure.
So, to me, laws are imperfect because people are imperfect. So they constantly need to be changed.
People aren't perfect.
And if you come across a law that is not working, or that is obsolete, or that should be changed, well then, that's where we come in.
Good
We
point.
tell our legislators, or we get involved in the process. I tell my kids this all the time. If you don't like that, then you need to get involved in the process and make a change.
Good point.
They haven't done it yet, but I'm still fighting.
That's part of advocacy. So,
So then it kind of seems like we're saying what makes a law accountable. Are we trying to say that that word accountable can also be something about effectiveness to the public? Because with Rosie's example of the no plastic bag, there's just no plastic bags in Hilo, so you just have
deal
to,
with it, right?
Yeah, you're just gonna have to fall in line.
And I did.
No warning out on the
No
door.
plastic bags. My daughter's school just sent something to all the parents to make sure the school requested from the city for a crosswalk to be put into, there's two main entrances to her school, and the lower campus entrance there's no crosswalk right there to the entrance. You have to walk kind of far down either end of the street. But they requested it, and the city said, we'll do something by the end of 2015. But in the meantime, if there's jaywalkers, because who's going to let their little 5-year-old go to kindergarten across the street on a kind of busy road in Kabuki? It's $130. So you bet all these parents are falling in line, and they're going to go to the actual crosswalk, right? So that if that's what we're saying about how does a law, what makes a law accountable to the public, then I think a lot of times it's the consequence, right? We want to avoid the consequence of breaking that law. So maybe be the consequences of whatever was written into the law.
And then I didn't quite get the feeling that you were done. Did you have anything you wanted to add to your statement, or did you get to say everything?
Me?
Yeah.
I think it was mostly done.
Oh.
I think what Karen said about the precedent I think I was trying to relate the word, but what does accountable mean? Once we have a law, I think, you know, the more it's used, the more it gets to be, part of the traction of what society expects. So like she was saying, there's precedent, you know, someone say, oh, well, they did it in that state, we can do it here. So it stays accountable, it's accountable to people by what's decided before.
So I have a quick question, not to interrupt, but there's a law that says, you know, when you're riding your bike, the kids should be wearing helmets, and I think, I don't know if it's 18 and under or 16 and under. Do you know how many elementary kids ride to school daily without a helmet? When we asked the police, well, are you gonna tag them all? They said, no, we don't have enough police force. I said, so why is there a law? And even when you ask the school, you know, well, aren't you guys gonna promote, you know, helmet safety? You know, that's the law. Well, not everyone can afford a helmet, then they shouldn't be riding a bike. Sorry. So that's what I'm wondering. So what makes the law accountable to the public? Yes, Jeremy?
I was gonna follow on exactly what you were saying. It's a case of enforcement
Yeah.
and the lack of facilities to enforce these laws that we see on a daily basis.
Right.
Why are these, you know, the guys, you know, running the red light? Why is that not being enforced?
Or not using their blinker.
I just looked up the word accountable, and the secondary definition says explicable or understandable. So that would change kind of the interpretation of that question. What makes a law understandable? How does the public understand law? I mean, so that may be another way to look at that question.
Yes.
I just wanted to add along those lines, you know, when I watch the city council hearings, a lot of times the police brass are there, and a lot of times it's what they say, you know, this is a problem with enforcement. And part of this testimony is towards that end. So I can see, why they're not doing certain things. They already was telling the city council, this is hard to enforce.
And, yeah, I've been to hearings where people have said, that's a great law, but how are we gonna enforce it? So, you know, does that become, does that build
Right.
a law because realistic, it's not realistic. And
Right.
I don't like being in a job where I get more put on my plate, more put on my plate, right? And not compensated, right? But think about the police that every year we're passing new laws.
Right.
And we're making them enforce more and more or different, but how realistic is it? And is it all of us too responsibility to help educate each other and help to enforce, you know, in a sense, remind us, hey, it's against the law, you know, you really gotta wear that helmet. You know, social enforcement too, because they have to prioritize. Otherwise, I mean, they'd be arresting all of us for going over the speed limit by 5 miles per hour or whatever, you know what I mean? I know, I do.
Shame on you.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the last question because we're running out of time.
What makes law the king of public policy? What makes law the king of public policy? Oh my gosh.
Well, isn't it because public policy has to fall within the law? I mean, public policy can't be outside of the law, can it? Those are guidelines, right? I mean,
I think it's enforcement.
Well, yeah, because if it's a law, then it can be enforced, whereas if it's well, we're talking about different types of public policy where it's not necessarily a law, so there's wiggle room in there. But, you know, once you write it down as, okay, this is the law, and then you have like the legal way to enforce it.
I mean, you can't make a policy that's outside of the law, can you?
Judith and I came across something where we've heard that there has been public policy that is questionable, right? Because it's up to the interpretation of law, whether that policy can be legally enforced or not. So there's a time, so from what we've researched, researched is that there's times where it could be public policy, but no one's gonna enforce it because it could be illegal to enforce, and then that would cause a problem, right? So it shouldn't, like, public policy shouldn't go against what the law says, but because of that interpretation, I think sometimes
It could.
It
be
could.
questionable.
Right, so then it would, does it not get implemented, or does it go to court?
You go to
Right.
court and you go into litigation for like 10 years.
So
And
the
even so
question
somebody
is,
tries to figure it
the
out.
question, what makes law king of public policy?
Well, if it's about what makes it king, it must have something to do with the legislative process. Because not all public policy would necessarily go through the legislative process, but what makes law king, I would guess it would be something like that.
I'm not sure, but I'm going to take a stab at it that there's law and also there's administrative laws too that are a little different level. I'm kind of thinking maybe, like departments have administrative rules. You have HARs for purchasing and procurement kind of stuff, but that's not really serious, like as much as a law is passed by the legislature. So I don't know if that's what we're discussing right now, that talking about the king,
We're getting there. Okay. Whose hand was up first? I saw two.
I think well, I don't know, the way I think about it is we live in a democracy, and hopefully everything, I'd like to think that everything bubbles up from below, and that we vote for our representatives and our president, and at the top of all that is the laws of the kingdom. So I would say that law is the king, is the way I think about it. If that makes sense.
Okay, so what I was told by the Department of Human Services when I was trying to figure this out was that law is the guiding light in Hawaii. In child welfare, this is all I know about, but I think it might, go over into other departments too. But so the law, there's federal law, and then the state laws have to abide by that, and a lot of times we have to change our state laws when a new federal law it comes into being. And then under state law are rules, and under the rules are policies. So if it's a rule, it has to be in line with the law, and if it's a policy, it's supposed to be in line with the rule, which isn't. But it does. But we do know that it doesn't always work that way, and then there are lawsuits, and usually, not always, but that's what my understanding is.
Michelle? Oh, you're holding the thing, girl. I'm sorry. Sorry, girl. I see you. Anybody else? Alrighty. Folks, thank you so much for putting up with me.
Good job, ladies.
Very good. Okay. So I am very excited about that conversation. That was very in detail, in-depth conversation. So do you all think you know more about the law than you originally thought before you walked into this session?
To some aspects, clueless. So yeah.
Some,
yeah.
I admire some of our classmates because they know what they're talking about.
Okay.
And I wish I could.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's part of the feedback you're going to get is that sometimes you feel like, wow, I knew more about that than I thought I did. That's one thing. One is it just kind of validates how we've been feeling about it anyway. The third thing is I'm open to whatever. Right? But I think what was important is that king, right? Because why do you think we said this earlier? What makes law the king of public policy? Right? It's the final word. Okay. But like most monarchies, you can change the mindset of the king if you ask, right? So if you never come up and ask the king to change something, it's never going to change the law of the land, right? So, but what we do know, democracy, is we can change the minds of legislators. It might take some time to get there, but we can do it, right? So, I'm going to pause it a bit in the process, and I want to give back feedback to our two facilitators. How do you think they did? Give me some constructive feedback, not just they did good, but what made it seem good?
They were awesome.
No, not seem good. I mean, like, back up why you thought it was good, not just good. You can say why you think it was good. Okay, you were saying, Erica?
No, Jardina, like, if there was a question and somebody was answering it, like she dug deeper into their answers and things like that. Yeah.
Jarnell has a nice projection of her voice. She has a good presence, and I like that she interjects some humor. It keeps everybody kind of involved.
Okay, thank you. Question?
Both Jarnell and Gordina are really good at paying attention to who wanted to say something and while waiting for one person to finish up, and they would go to the person that they, had seen the hand up before and make sure they got to say what they want to say.
Yeah, I love the fact you went back and you asked, did you get a chance to finish what you're saying? And you said yes, and that was good. That was really good. Yes,
Kind of clarified if the questions were asked, and you could see that people were kind of like, a little bit deeper, gave a little bit further examples, made us feel a bit more comfortable about what we wanted to say.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
I also like that they were honest, that they didn't quite understand the question, that one question as well, and that they did some research though, that they showed that they kind of, that they did their homework, and but they were really honest about it, and they kind of left it up to what you guys think too. So I like that.
I love that. That was really good. I was really impressed by them saying, we Googled it and. That's what it should be. That's awesome.
I like that Jarnell used personal experience to draw us out more.
Okay,
So,
definitely.
I've been recorded a lot. So willing to be vulnerable for the rest of us will join.
Okay, nice. Any suggestions of what's one thing that they can do differently? I had a hard time coming up with that one myself. I thought they did a really good job tonight, and thank you guys so much for. Okay, we're gonna take a short little break. We're gonna give you 7 minutes.
7 whole minutes.
7
Wow.
whole minutes. Ready, set, and cut.
Can I turn it off?
Turn off for a while, yeah.